Huh. That didn't work out like I was supposed to. I think nobody showed up yet. Still good? We're good. Hey, Facebook. Recovery Cafe here. Brandon, I got a rock star in the recovery community with us today. This is Kelly. Say hi.
Hi.
So we brought Kelly today because from the outside looking in, she's just been killing it out there, and I think it's important that we get her story out there and how she became into a recovery, and we're going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to let her tell her story. First off, we're super glad that you can make it here for our Facebook Live today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So how you been doing?
I've been doing good. This whole thing, I've just been looking at the positive. Like, it's given me more quality time with my kids, and I feel like really my recovery has sort of expanded because I've been going to a lot of Zoom meetings and connecting with people that I wouldn't necessarily normally connect with.
Right. That's a good thing.
Yeah. And just staying busy. Today's my first day back to spring term. So
What are you going to school for?
I'm working toward my bachelor's right now in human services, and I'm thinking about getting my master's so that I can work in mental health.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You like school?
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have a 17-year-old boy and an 11-year-old daughter.
Oh, how are they taking this whole isolation thing?
They're taking it pretty well.
Yeah?
No complaints.
Are they fighting?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, they are, huh? I was watching on Facebook the other day, and my buddy Brent, one of his kids drop kicked his other kid the other day. I was like, whoa, you know what I'm talking about, Brent? I'll shout it out there. Brent Gordon, my dude. So it's pretty neat that you're able to find positivity in this whole isolation thing with COVID going on, because a lot of people out there are not finding that right now.
Yeah, it's really important for me right now just to continue those connections. Like a group of girls and I meet every morning and we do book work and share each other's experience, strength, and hope through that. And so that's been really awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been a steady thing.
Yeah.
So not just you, but a few of you young ladies out there handling the business.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gets me into into the book for me, and just like hearing other people's perspectives on it.
Right.
So it's been really helpful.
What makes you want to go into the human mental health field?
Yeah. So originally, I got into school. I knew I wanted to be in the human services just because it's a spectrum of ways of helping people, and that was sort of where my passion is. And then so I have a background of domestic violence, and so I wanted to work with other survivors of domestic violence, and then also to become certified as a drug and alcohol counselor. Yeah, and then now I'm sort of branching off, finding a passion in working with co-occurring disorders. I took a class last term that it was just really inspiring to me. There was an individual that has schizophrenia, and he was amazing. And actually he's further along in school than I am. And then there was a girl that he was with that has borderline personality disorder, and just hearing their amazing story and how they're overcoming their struggles was just absolutely inspiring to me.
And just drove you to want to start a whole new passion.
Yeah.
How great is that? I love it when that happens. I have a friend who actually it's a big time buddy of mine. He wanted to do something in his life. He went and helped out at another area that he was unsure of, came back. He's like, yep, I'm changing my life. I know what I want to do. So it happens just like that, you know?
Yeah.
What classes in school do you like the most? And which ones do you struggle with?
I struggle with, well, I got through math.
Woo!
Yeah. And
it wasn't easy.
No. And then a group of us are taking science this term. So I am learning that even in school, I'm sort of using that motto that it's a we program. And so we're having like study groups and all of that. And it's cool because a lot of people that I go to school with are in recovery as well.
Oh, right on.
And so it's been really inspiring, you know, and we just took a group counseling, which was amazing, like just the way that we grew as a cohort, you know. So I don't have any particular, like all of the human services classes, like I've really gotten a lot out of it. And I have an instructor that has been absolutely inspiring. He's also, he has 18 years clean and sober. Yeah. Yeah,
I've known Manny most of my life. Yeah, me and Manny go back like 4 flats on the Cadillac. I love that guy. That's actually, my wife's going to take some classes with him too. What an amazing story he has as well.
Yeah.
So speaking of stories and amazing stories, how much clean time do you have?
I have 2.5 years.
If I could high five you right now, girl, high five you. Good job. So you've been doing all this in 2.5 years?
Yeah.
Holy crud, you've been busy. That's getting to it, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not my first go around. You know, I have a relapse as part of my story, but, you know, I was able to make it back into the rooms and I finally was able to just kind of surrender and take suggestions and, you know, start working a program, and that's been life-changing for me. You know?
So amazing.
And when I first came into the rooms, it was like one thing that I kept hearing was nothing changes if nothing changes. So it's like I had to let go of my old ways and just kind of step out of my comfort zone and start doing things a little differently, like one foot in front of the other.
How hard was it to change the narrative in your head that you were a winner?
Oh, it took me time, you know, like for me, like self-acceptance was a huge thing to overcome, you know. And what helped me is being around other people in recovery and hearing their experience, strength, and hope, and then being able to like allow myself to be vulnerable and to like just fall apart in front of people, and then them still love and accept me just as I was, just as I am, you know, in that moment. That helped me learn to love myself, you know, and then pushing through those, because I mean there were moments in my recovery where it's like I had to adjust to like working through my emotions and pain and all that stuff without drugs and alcohol. Right. And so going through that transition, you know, each time I did that, it was like, okay, you know, maybe this shit can work, or this stuff can work. Sorry.
No, feel free.
Okay.
I want you to speak your mind.
Okay.
We're not perfect here whatsoever, but we just try to be normal. So a couple more questions before I want to just hear your amazing recovery story. With changing the narrative in your head, it also, in 2.5 years, it sounds like you've had some pretty amazing goals crossed off your list.
Yeah.
How did you go about making those small goals into large goals and then completing those goals?
Okay, so when I started out, so it goes back a little bit further, because when I was in treatment, I remember my counselor asking me, well, why don't you go back to school? And at that time I was like, dude, I'm thinking about like, how am I going to pay my power bill? You know, how am I going to like handle my rent? Like I don't even care about that. You know, that was kind of my mentality. But it planted a seed. And so, you know, and I was like, as a single mom, like I can't make that work. And and so it planted a seed, and eventually, you know, I was able to like take one class here and another class there. And when I started out, I was, you know, staying in a shelter with my kids, and then
When
working.
you started out in school?
Yeah, working and then going to, you know, taking a class, and then I just like I signed up for the human services program. I'm not even sure how that happened. It's just like, you know, little by little.
Destiny.
Yeah, and then I, you know, I got in that, and then I was going full time, and I applied for scholarships, and I like, you know, tried to find ways of like minimizing my cost of living and stuff like that, so I could really focus on school and being a single parent. And so, I mean, it just gradually built. It was just putting one foot in front of the other, you know, and I started out with one class, you know, and then two.
You know, I feel like we're about to hear an awesome recovery story. You also are a part of Oregon Recovers?
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd you get involved with that?
That was kind of one of those things, actually. One of my friends and I that I go to school with, and she's also in recovery, amazing person, Darren. And so we heard about this like committee that they were having, the summit committee, and we kind of thought it was going to be about like because it was how to build a recovery community, but we thought like maybe, you know, if we wanted to ever start like our own rehab or something, like we were going to get a walkthrough on that. So we had no clue what Oregon Recovers is about. And so we went to this summit, and I think what was the most inspiring about that, and what is most inspiring about Oregon Recovers for me, is that just like this wide range of like the recovery community, like different parts of the recovery community coming together, and just you know, the unity and the diversity at the same time, like all of that, just the love and acceptance, and you know, it was so inspiring to me.
And those guys up there are pretty neat too.
Yeah.
Those guys are up there pretty neat.
Yeah, and they're working hard.
Yeah. Man, I sure hope a lot of you young ladies and even some of you gentlemen out there are really paying attention right now. Like I said, I wasn't joking when I told you we had a powerhouse in the house today. So if you could do us a little bit, just tell us a little bit about your recovery story, and then I'm just so blessed to have you here today to explain a little bit of this, the way you set to your goals, the way you change your mentality, your schooling, your walk. All of it's just so amazing. I'm just so excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. So, like, I don't know, like, alcohol was always just a part of my life. Like, my first impression, I remember, like, my parents would have, like, social gatherings, and I always like looked at it like, you know, alcohol, like you have fun, and it's, you know, just a social gathering. And so like I got drunk when I was 11, and for me it was like I always struggled with finding those social connections with others. So I always looked at people that were like more outgoing than I was, to like kind of see like what they were doing. And when I drank, it was like it got me out of my shell. And so it was always like, you know, I was blacking out when I was 13, and I mean, I never drank like a little bit. It was always like full throttle for me, you know. And I had done drugs periodically. Alcohol's a big part of my story, but so when I was first introduced to a 12-step fellowship, I had no clue. Like, I wasn't there for myself. I was there to support a friend of mine that was working on her sobriety. And so, but it was the first time that I realized, like, there's people out there that, like, live a sober life, or that it was so foreign to me. And then when I I eventually like started coming into the rooms because like at that point I could admit that my life was unmanageable, you know, and I didn't really make the connection between like the chaos in my life and alcohol. Like for me, alcohol was the solution at that time, you know. And so I was dealing with, you know, I was DHS involved and fighting for my parental rights, and I was in an abusive relationship. And so that's what brought that on. And then in order to go to this like women against violence class, I had to I couldn't drink. And I had always thought like if I wanted to quit drinking, I could, you know, I just don't want to. And so the first time that I like tried not drinking, I got that phenomenal craving, and my sobriety date was always changing, you know. I just and then that year someone really close to me died, and so I heard like get a sponsor, work the steps, and I had no clue what that meant. Like to me, my impression of like the 12 steps, I thought it was just like a list that sober people made up because they were bored, like they had nothing to do because they weren't drinking.
Oh, that's funny.
And so I had no clue, and but I had at that point, it's like I felt like I had to cling to something positive, because if I didn't, I knew that I was gonna like spiral out of control. Right. Yeah. And so I started to do that, but I had a really hard time when it came to doing a personal inventory, you know, like it just brought on all these like unwanted feelings, and so I decided like, you know, I'm still gonna stay sober, but I'm just gonna do this thing on my own. And that lasted like a month, and then
it worked out real well.
Yeah. And then I was drunk again, and there was a progression, because I remember before I would be like, well, I'm not an alcoholic because I don't drink every day, you know, and then before I knew it, like I was drinking every day. And then eventually, you know, I was offered meth, and I remember like kind of hesitating at first, but it was like I thought of like the euphoria, and I was just like, well, I'll just do it one time, you know, just one time.
Exactly.
And so from there, I was doing drugs like every day for the next year and a half, something like that. And before, it's like it seemed like I could always like, you know, kind of pick myself up, you know, and like my MO was always like things would fall apart, and then I throw something positive in it and kind of smooth things over, and then go back to my old ways, you know. And I couldn't do that. Like toward the end, I was just like, I remember just like being so afraid of myself, you know. And by then I had 2 felonies, and I was on supervised probation, and that's when things started to change for me. Like my probation officer was a total hard ass, and I was still going through an abusive relationship. Kind of, we weren't together, but it was like that cycle was still happening.
The toxic cycle.
Yeah. And so this one time I had my ex's probation officer and my probation officer knocking on my door, and they're like, and my probation officer was like, is there anybody here? And I was like, I hesitated because I wanted to be honest, but I came out with no, you know. And so they searched and they found him there, and normally it was like, you know, and he got arrested. Like he was the more like kind of out of control, chaotic, you know. But this time my probation officer was like, you're arrested too. You're going to jail for lying to me. And that was, when looking back on that, like that was so helpful, because I couldn't get honest with myself, right, let alone anybody else, you know. And what he did for me is that he started treating me like a survivor, like soldier up, you know.
Buck up,
like,
soldier.
Like take accountability for your part. Like he told me toward the end, he was like, you are a victim of domestic violence, but he never told me that in the beginning. He was always kind of like, you're treating me like a survivor, like get up, you know.
Good stuff. That's really good to hear.
Yeah. And before that, I was always treated like like a victim. And so it's like I kind of skated by with that a little bit, you know. And so I started you know, going to treatment. I had an amazing counselor. Like, she changed my life. Like, she taught me to trust my voice, like to listen to it, you know, just like every time I would like go to her for like, you know, like validation or something, like, is this okay? Does it sound, you know, she'd be like, well, what do you think? Like, she'd throw it right back in my lap. And she's the one that inspired me to go back to school, or actually like kind of made me even like consider that, you know, because I had thought like that's like over with, like I'm not going back to school, like this is my life, you know. Like I started getting,
you were okay with it.
Yeah, my world just got really small and I couldn't see outside that little, you know, section or whatever. And so yeah, I mean, and then eventually I was on write-ups. I had 9 months clean, and I hadn't worked through the steps yet, and I still had a hard time opening myself up to other people. Like, I was so accustomed to like falling apart and then coming out with a smile on my face, you know, and to show like that side of where I'm like falling apart and I'm not okay, like, was really hard for me to like reveal to other people, you know. And so I ended up relapsing, and there was this just this one time where it's like I kind of fell to my knees and I was like, you know, I was praying to God and I was like, I can't go forward and I can't go back. Like, what do you want me to do, you know? And I had I was on the verge of a relapse, and this is like earlier on, but like I had sent like this text message to the person that I got drugs from, and I was like, I'm broken, can you help, you know? And then I like fell to my knees and I was like, I don't want to do that, but I had a hard time going forward, and so I ended up getting my answer, you know, through that. I'm kind of like steering off track, but so yeah, I mean, there were moments of like divine intervention for me, and then so what I learned like through the, you know, working a program and stuff is that I was able to I had like some shame. I had a lot of shame, and I had a lot of like ideas about myself. And so what I learned was that I could rewrite my story. Like, I didn't have to believe that stuff that I'd been telling myself, you know? Good. And I still pay attention to that this day. Like, when I have stuff come up, I have to remind myself, like, you know, I pay a lot of attention to my self-talk and what I'm telling myself. And I've learned to like reframe things, you know? And today, I mean, I have so many, like, it's amazing to me, like with all this Zoom stuff, you know, just all like, I feel like it's growing, you know, like there's so many people like from that are going to meetings that they wouldn't normally go to, like even out of town meetings, and people reconnecting. I
had a buddy say he was on a Zoom meeting the other night and a guy from Australia hopped on. That's crazy. Yeah, I went to one meeting, a lady from Florida was speaking, and there were people from like Germany, Australia, like it was a worldwide meeting. It was awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I kind of got off track with that, but what are your successes? Well, I mean, I was a high school dropout. Like, I never finished anything, you know, and now I'm getting ready to graduate from RCC and then go to SOU, you know. So good. Yeah. And for your master's? Yeah, I think I'm going to go for my master's. Like, I was looking at my bachelor's, but I really do want to work in mental health. 2 more years, right? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think like for me though, like one of the biggest things about my recovery or my successes today is just like being able to like love and accept myself. Like that is so freeing. Like I always felt like I was like imprisoned, like I was stuck inside, like I was so uncomfortable in the skin I lived in, you know, and just feeling like that every day, and just learning to like do things differently. Like I feel like I have so many choices today, and there's so many people that I could go to today, you know, if I'm struggling with something,
like support.
Our recovery community is awesome, or the recovery community is awesome.
Yeah, us down here in Southern Oregon, man, like we're growing every day. And I just want to say that, like, for all you guys out there, if we can do it, you can do it. We believe in you. We love you. Kelly, what an inspiration it is to have on our little live today. I hope you come visit us again down the road. And do you have anything to say to the still suffering addict out there?
Yeah, I mean, I have somebody out that's still out there, you know, and I think I just want to, like, wherever you think you are right now in this moment, it's like I want you to remember that you can like rewrite your story, you know, that there's just so much hope out there. Like my life is so different today than what it was 2 years ago, and the way that happened was just putting one foot in front of the other, and just learning to ask for help. I think that was the hardest part, because it's like I felt like this low life drug addict, and I was ashamed of like myself and my life, and it's like none of that is true for me today. Like I was just struggling. I was just a person that was struggling. You know?
Well, we're super proud of you.
Thank you.
You are being noticed out there. You are a winner. You are definitely becoming more and more successful, and I just think your story is so inspiring. We're so blessed to have you today. So if you guys see her walking down the road and you guys don't know what to do, reach out to her. She's part of the recovery community. That's what we do.
Thank you.
And we're going to go ahead and sign off. I know we just took some pretty good time out of your day. I hope you guys got something out of that. We love you guys with all our hearts and all our soul. And if you guys need us, you know where to find us. God bless.
Thank you.
Hit the finish button.
Oh.